All right, what's up, everybody? Good afternoon. Happy Thursday, pushing the limits. Thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate you all listening and watching, of course, on the Really American Network. We're also my YouTube page at PTL Radio Show. And certainly a lot to get to today and a lot to go over and a lot to talk about. As I drove into the station yesterday, I had no idea what was going to happen. I had no idea what we were going to talk about. I had no idea that for the 2-hour program yesterday, we'd be talking about the breaking news, of course, the tragic murder of Charlie Kirk. I had no idea. And it had happened yesterday, right when I went on the air. So obviously there's some new revelations and a lot of stuff to talk about. I just want to mention, of course, this being 9/11, the anniversary of that tragic day where so many innocent people lost their lives. And I remember I was driving to college that day, and I heard of planes that struck a World Trade Center building. And I'm like, whoa, was that one of those 3-person propeller planes? And then, we all know what transpired after that. So certainly my thoughts and prayers are out to all the victims and their families on this horrible anniversary of a day where we lost thousands and thousands of innocent Americans. I want to introduce to you a man that is co-hosting with me today, who has been in law enforcement for over 2 decades, a North Las Vegas police officer and lieutenant. And it's great to have, of course, Leonard in studio with us today. Leonard, thank you so much for being here.
Okay, Brian. I know it's a somber day. Remembering 9/11. I was called into work that day. We were all called in because we didn't know how large the attack would be, and I know, of course, the Charlie Kirk shooting.
We'll definitely get to all that, and I'm emotionally spent. Obviously, yesterday was a difficult day to do the show because this breaking news was it was so sudden, and so I was just like shocked.
You guys did a great job. You and
Thank you.
Numchuck got on it, and it was done very well.
Thank you. And for the remainder of the day, all I did was work. All of a sudden, I get home from work, and I'm doing more work, and then all of a sudden, I look at the clock, and it's like 11 p.m., and I had no time for my own just to kind of process what the day was like. I did multiple shows.
You're on Don Lemon?
One of the shows I did
saw part of that.
Yeah,
they let you just talk, and
yeah, Don's great.
It was good.
I spoke on Don's show, and I was on a couple other shows as well, and then I was doing work on my own and trying to. I spoke to before we get back to 9/11. I do want to say I had a couple private conversations yesterday, and I spoke to some people that were actually at the Charlie Kirk rally yesterday.
Wow.
Some of whom are prominent people. So I'll get to that. Going back to 9/11. And that horrible day, and I think we all remember where we were at on that day, and so many brave firefighters and law enforcement and innocent human beings who lost their life that day. I was going to school at a college called Central Connecticut State University, just a few hours away from a short drive from where this all took place. And I want to play this audio clip because on the day of 9/11, Donald Trump being a supposed New Yorker, I want you to listen to the way Donald Trump responded on that very fateful day when the Twin Towers eventually collapsed and thousands of innocent Americans died. Have a listen to what Donald Trump had to say.
Donald, you have one of the landmark buildings down in the financial district, 40 Wall Street. Did you have any damage, or did you know what's happened down there?
Well, it was an amazing phone call I made. 40 Wall Street actually was the second tallest building in downtown Manhattan, and it was actually, before the World Trade Center, was the tallest. And then when they built the World Trade Center, it became known as the second tallest, and now it's the tallest.
On a day where we lost thousands of innocent Americans on 9/11, Donald Trump's first reaction was talking about how he now owned the tallest building in Manhattan.
Bragging.
I just wanted to play that audio for you because that person now is the President of the United States. And any decent human being, the last thing they would talk about is some building that they own. They would talk about the tragedy and how we're fighting against evil, and of course that was Al Qaeda and Osama bin Laden. But Donald Trump was bragging back then about how tall one of his buildings were, and I just think that goes to show you where we're at today as a country.
Totally displaced focus.
So there's a lot of weird things that happened yesterday after the shooting. And again, Leonard, I emphasize this because I've been very consistent on this, even though I was not and never was a Charlie Kirk fan.
I'm not either.
I'm not here to defend Charlie Kirk. I never will. My thoughts and prayers certainly are heartfelt that go out to his family, his 2 kids that were there, his wife. It's just a horrible tragedy. And by the way, everybody else, Leonard, that was there that day was traumatized in one way or another. So I had a chance to speak last night, and he might join me on the show tomorrow. Parker. Everybody knows who Parker is. Parker was there. He was supposed to be asking the first question, and he told me yesterday he showed up a little late. He was 30 feet from the stage. Hopefully he'll be able to join us on the show tomorrow and give us 10 minutes. So he was very, what's the word I'm looking for? Certainly traumatized, and he did not sound like himself yesterday on the phone.
Well, have somebody shot dead,
Yeah.
Literally feet from you.
I've never
I've never
witnessed somebody get murdered before. I never want to, and sadly everybody that was there on that university yesterday did, and that's traumatic. And so I spoke with Parker last night, and he was certainly traumatized. And I said, listen, don't come on tomorrow. He's flying back from Utah today. I said, maybe we can get you on the phone for 10 minutes just to get his witness account of what happened. And when I was on the air yesterday at around the 5 to 10 minute mark, and Numchuck did a really good job at giving me the latest information, because it's very difficult for me to host a show and try to figure out what's going on at the same time. Numchuck did a good job of keeping me up to date. And when he showed me the worst of all the video angles of Charlie Kirk being shot yesterday, I mean, I just wanted to vomit. It was very difficult to watch. And that's instilled in my brain. Here's someone that I might disagree with that's talking about gun control, and then the next second later, he's gone. 2 children, don't have a father, and it's... I will ask you this question, though, before I get to some audio cuts. Now, I understand that Donald Trump put the flags at half-mast. Why didn't he do that after the Minneapolis, Minnesota shooting, where a bunch of innocent children that were praying were shot and killed? Why does he do it for Charlie Kirk? And by the way, I don't have a problem with him doing it for Charlie Kirk. But why does Donald Trump do it for Charlie Kirk and not doing it for innocent children that lost their lives in a school shooting?
I think he's so self-centered that the political theater and the theater of the moment is more important to him than the actual empathy and the actual caring and the actual making a statement to the public. I mean, one of the first things he said was he blamed the liberal left rhetoric, and we don't even have someone in custody, so we have no idea. It could have been someone who didn't like Charlie Kirk for whatever reason.
Right.
Or he was there because he just wanted to have attention, or maybe somebody important just came finally to his tiny little town. It could have been he was obviously deranged. He was homicidal, and he wanted to shoot someone, but we don't know why. And for the president to speculate and blame the left automatically, that's just political theater, and it's inappropriate. It's beneath the office of the president, in my opinion. I don't think he should have done that.
So speaking of which, I wanted to play you some audio clips. And I can play you 50 clips if I wanted to from the reaction from the right, and some of these people on the right are just such clowns.
Online, they're saying some terrible stuff.
So let's start with Joni Ernst, who's a complete imbecile. But before I get to Joni Ernst, I do want to play you Donald Trump, speaking of imbeciles. So I did find it interesting that, it took Donald Trump 4 hours to make a statement on January 6th. But it seemed like within an hour,
they were begging him to say something. They were in his. Yeah. They testified. They were in the room saying, "Please tell them to stop," and he was just watching.
Yeah.
And.
But here's why I bring up Donald Trump, because Donald Trump, in his statement, he's incapable of bringing people together. And here's Donald Trump in his statement yesterday, blaming the rhetoric of the radical left, not even knowing who the shooter is, blaming the radical left. Listen to this.
For years, those on the radical left have compared wonderful Americans like Charlie to Nazis and the world's worst mass murderers and criminals. This kind of rhetoric is directly responsible for the terrorism that we're seeing in our country today, and it must stop right now. My administration will find each and every one of those who contributed to this atrocity and to other political violence, including the organizations that fund it and support it, as well as those who go after our judges, law enforcement officials, and everyone else who brings order to our country. From the attack on my life in Butler, Pennsylvania last year, which killed a husband and father, to the attacks on ICE agents, to the vicious murder of a healthcare executive in the streets of New York, to the shooting of House Majority Leader Steve Scalise and 3 others, radical left political violence has hurt too many innocent people and taken too many lives.
The last person I want to hear talking about political violence and incitement is Donald Trump. January 6th does not happen if not for Donald Trump. And even worse, Donald Trump called those people hostages and patriots, some of whom beat police officers. But he wants to blame the radical left. So I'm just curious to all of you. The man who targeted and killed Democratic State Representative Melissa Hortman, was that a liberal? No. That was a Trump supporter. The man who targeted the home of Democrat Governor Josh Shapiro was not a liberal. It was a Trump supporter. The men who wanted to hang Mike Pence on January 6th were not liberals. They were Trump supporters, including those who beat police officers and destruction of property. And the man who targeted and killed the son of Obama-appointed District Judge Esther Salas was a Trump supporter, not a liberal, not a lefty. The man who tried to kidnap Nancy Pelosi and assaulted her husband was a Trump supporter. Yes, that's right. Charlie Kirk was the guy who laughed about this.
Yep.
Who actually did a show and tried to raise money to help defend the person who bludgeoned and almost killed Paul Pelosi. It was Charlie Kirk that thought it was funny. The men, I should say, who were convicted of trying to kidnap Democrat Governor Gretchen Whitmer were not liberals or lefties. They were Trump supporters. The man who sent pipe bombs to the homes of Barack Obama and Joe Biden was a Trump supporter. The guy who sent pipe bombs to CNN was a Trump supporter. The Texas El Paso shooter who killed a bunch of innocent brown people in a Walmart and in his manifesto did nothing but praise Donald Trump and his rhetoric.
Did we talk about Melissa Hortman and her husband?
Yeah, I mentioned that as well.
And that was only, a couple of months ago?
These people were all Trump supporters. Now, I don't like after a tragedy, and immediately after a tragedy, as I didn't yesterday, to blame a side of the political aisle. But everybody on the right, for the most part, are blaming liberals and Democrats when, number one, they don't even know who the shooter is. We just have a few pictures from the FBI, and it doesn't even clearly show the race of the individual, and the shirt that individual is wearing certainly doesn't seem like somebody that's a lefty, but we don't know. But they want to blame liberals and Democrats?
Why are they threatening historically black colleges? Let me ask you that.
Yeah.
How come they are the number one threat? There's 8 or 9 that are on the list that are being threatened, and it was, I'm assuming the shooter looks white. At least they're saying he's possibly white. And so why are they threatening historically black colleges when the shooter hasn't even been taken into custody yet? That makes no sense.
It makes no sense. I completely agree with you. But I want to play you some audio of Joni Ernst. And I want to play you some audio from right-wing Republicans yesterday that are blaming the left and liberals. Before I do so, I want to tell you, I was supposed to have somebody on this program. Her name is Isabel Maria Daluca. She was arrested on January 6th. She is a large political social media influencer who was friends with Charlie Kirk. I didn't want to have her on to demonize her. I didn't want to have her on to attack her beliefs. She was going to come on this show today, and then she sent me an email that said, let me be clear. I cannot and will not align myself with anyone who attempts to justify what happened. Let me be very clear on that. What a despicable thing to say. Never have I ever justified yesterday, today, or ever political violence in any way, shape, or form. And what happened yesterday was murder. It was disgusting, and I said it over and over again, and I would not allow yesterday people to call into the show and say negative things about Charlie Kirk, even though I don't defend him. But she won't come on the show because she doesn't want to defend her statements on social media, blaming the left. They killed Charlie Kirk. Who's they? There's one person that's responsible for this or that we know. We don't even know who it is. But listen to Joni Ernst and listen to her despicable comments that she made on national television yesterday about this shooting.
It has gone way too far. Political violence is never the answer. It is never the solution. And what we are finding is that when you do have those strong conservative voices speaking truth to power, you will find that when the left can no longer debate it, they can't deny the truth, the only way they can silence those voices is through violence. That's how Charlie met his end yesterday. He will be forever remembered, not only by those of us on the right, but also by an entire generation of young students, young men and women, and he will continue to inspire.
You idiot.
What's wrong with her?
First of all, she has no idea who the shooter is. Second of all, was she saying that you silence voices through violence? Was she making those statements on January 6th or any of those other crimes that were carried out by MAGA Republicans? She doesn't even know who the shooter is, and she's saying they, liberals, Democrats, silence voices through violence.
MAGAs are confused. They can't tell the difference between somebody who has a different opinion and your enemy. That's one and the same to them. And they think we think the same way, but we don't. And what you said yesterday and the way you articulated that you don't agree with Charlie Kirk and that you think in some ways he's despicable for his positions, you don't agree with the violence. You have empathy. You're thinking about his wife and his kids and his family. And why didn't the president come out and say that and say, hey, you know what? I don't condone political violence, and you may not have liked this guy, but what happened is not right, and you need to have some empathy and some prayers for his family. Why was there no dignity in what the president said?
I agree with you there. And then there's people like Mark Wayne Mullen, who, again, is blaming the left for all the political violence in this country and putting it all on the left to apologize. Have a listen to what Mark Wayne Mullen had to say yesterday.
They robbed a voice that spoke common sense because of their hatred to people that disagree with them, but yet they're the ones that try to champion free speech. But we're not the ones out there trying to silence them through violence. It's ridiculous. And I know, Sean, that I'm not the only one out there hurting, and I'm not the only one that's upset by this. But when is enough enough? When is the Democrats going to stand up and apologize for the hatred and the lies that they have fed their base that's led to these actions?
When are the Democrats going to apologize for the lies? By the way, I don't know what lies he's referring to that appeal to their base. Donald Trump and MAGA Republicans for years have said that Trump won the 2020 election. It's why we had something called January 6th. Donald Trump and his supporters are the ones that campaigned on they're eating the cats and the dogs. Donald Trump and his supporters are the ones that continue to demonize and attack minorities, transgenders in this country. And Mark Wayne Mullen, just like many of these other Republican turds out there, use the term they. They took out Charlie Kirk. They. Well, who's they? Because last I checked, they is one human being, reportedly, we don't even know that for sure, at least one person that we know of. We don't know this person's name. We don't know this person's political affiliation. For all we know, this person could be a Republican who didn't like Charlie Kirk. We have no idea. But Mark Wayne Mullen is saying they took out Charlie Kirk. And he's not the only Republican idiot that is making statements like that. No, it's not they. They did not take out Charlie Kirk. We know of one person at a minimum, but most likely one person that was responsible for taking out Charlie Kirk. We don't know his political affiliation. We don't know his motives. We don't know anything. And they want to blame half of the country? These Republicans are despicable human beings. For them to say they took out, that'd be like me saying every Republican is an insurrectionist. Everybody who supports Donald Trump is an insurrectionist. Every Republican beat cops on January 6th. Now, of course I wouldn't say that because it's not true, and it's asinine. That's what Mark Wayne Mullen is saying, and that's what these MAGA Republicans said on national TV yesterday and this morning. They took out Charlie Kirk. They took out the biggest voice in our party. No, they didn't take out anybody, you idiots. It was one person, most likely, and you don't even know who that is.
He's just trying to get clicks. He's trying to get more clicks and more views on the back of somebody being murdered, and I think it's despicable. That's just my opinion.
I agree. And then there's Mike Johnson. Let's play his audio next. Now, Mike Johnson was asked on CNN about this horrible murder that took place yesterday, and listen to what Mike Johnson has to say. Listen to what he said. What a hypocrite.
It's clear. You've had people who have resorted to political violence because they were encouraged along by the dialogue out in the public square, and some of that is put forward by elected officials and people with large platforms, large social media platforms, and they're saying and doing things that make it personal, and people direct their anger to individuals. I mean, this is not who we are. We're better than this. We need to be setting an example as Americans.
What an absolute joke. I wonder which people Mike Johnson is talking about with those large platforms that call people names. Maybe that person could be Donald Trump. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there because he does it every day. Or maybe it's an Elon Musk. Or maybe it's a Laura Loomer who was blaming the left for what took place to Charlie Kirk yesterday. I can name you so many people with large platforms on the right. That's what they do. They literally make money off of this. And then when somebody like Paul Pelosi is bludgeoned with a hammer and almost is killed, they make jokes about it and they say it was a gay relationship. And people, yes, I'm going to bring his name up, like Charlie Kirk, who joked about the attack on Paul Pelosi, who said empathy is a bad thing, not a good thing.
A lot of MAGAs believe that.
Charlie Kirk is the guy who said it's worth people losing their life from gun violence if, in fact, it upholds the Second Amendment.
Can keep their rights.
Now,
right.
I did not want to play this cut yesterday, and the reason why I did not want to play it is because it was inappropriate. We had the news coming in. It was an emotional show yesterday, and I thought it was inappropriate. We've had 24 hours to digest this horrible tragedy that took place. And by the way, my opinion has not wavered. I don't defend Charlie Kirk. I don't think he was a good guy. I think he spread a lot of hate and misogyny, but he did not deserve this. My opinion has not changed. I will never defend any sort of political violence. But with that being said, Charlie Kirk made this statement back in 2023, not only about gun control and gun violence, but gun deaths, in a way, defending gun deaths if as long as we still have the Second Amendment. I want you to listen to this statement that Charlie Kirk made 2 years ago, because now he is one of those people, sadly, that has died from gun violence. Have a listen to this.
So we need to be very clear that you're not going to get gun deaths to zero. It will not happen.
Right.
You can significantly reduce them through having more fathers in the home,
Yes.
by having more armed guards in front of schools. We should have an honest and clear reductionist view of gun violence, but we should not have a utopian one. You will never live in a society when you have an armed citizenry and you won't have a single gun death. That is nonsense. It's drivel. But I think it's worth it. I think it's worth to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year, so that we can have the Second Amendment to protect our other God-given rights. That is a prudent deal. It is rational. Nobody talks like this. They live in a complete alternate universe.
No, we don't live in a complete alternate universe, Charlie. We live in a universe where you were the victim of gun violence and you lost your life.
He's conflating two ideas.
You leave behind your 2 kids and your wife, and it's a tragedy. I want to repeat the quote that Charlie Kirk just said, which I find reprehensible, by the way. He said, quote, "I think it's worth to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every year so that we can have the Second Amendment." Well, I wonder if Charlie's poor wife and 2 kids that are going to be growing up without a father are thinking that way right now. The answer is no, because it's until it happens to you. You see, Charlie Kirk wasn't thinking when he made that statement.
It was just shock value.
He wasn't thinking about all the innocent children that lost their lives in schools. He wasn't thinking about all the innocent people that lose their lives every day. And by the way, I don't care whether it's in Chicago or D.C. in a classroom. It's all terrible, because Charlie Kirk seemed to be obsessed with black-on-black crime. But notice how Charlie Kirk never spoke that way about kids that lose their life in schools, but yet he says some gun deaths every year, unfortunately, are going to happen so that we have the Second Amendment. And now Charlie Kirk is one of those people. And how ironic is it that moments, literally seconds, before Charlie Kirk took his last breath, he was once again attacking transgenders. And then when asked how many mass shootings are there in this country, he said, does that include gang violence? So In the last moments of Charlie Kirk's life, he wasn't talking about God, wasn't talking about Jesus, he wasn't talking about fallen soldiers or his family. He was attacking transgenders and referring to black on black crime, because Charlie Kirk made a career out of attacking minorities, out of attacking transgenders. He did not deserve to be murdered. Let me be very clear on that once again. I will never defend political violence. And I feel for his family and his friends and for everybody that was on that campus yesterday. It's a horrible thing that happened yesterday. It's terrible for the country. I hope to find the person or persons that are responsible for this. Nothing I am saying is trying to downplay what took place yesterday, because I'm not. The tragedy and the violent act that took place, I am not downplaying it, and it is horrible. But Charlie Kirk is the guy who talked about gun violence and said, well, we're going to have some casualties. Let's just uphold the Second Amendment. And now, sadly, Charlie Kirk is in a coffin. And I wish that wasn't the case, because he didn't deserve this to happen to him. Those innocent children who died in Minneapolis, Minnesota, didn't deserve that to happen to them either.
It's ironic that he was talking about gun violence and mass shooting and gangs when he was killed, because he had very strong positions. But I don't understand the comment about the utopia. But he was trying to say it's a natural causation of an armed society for people to get killed. So if you're going to arm your society, but the reason we armed ourselves in the first place, and I know there's way, way, way too many guns, 440 million guns in our society in the United States is way too many. But the reason the Second Amendment was written is because the central military, they were afraid they would oppress the new Americans like England did. And that's why it came about.
Yeah,
it had nothing to do with what he's talking about. And so he tried to conflate several ideas, and I think that's kind of why he was popular with certain people.
Well, Leonard, I want to be very clear on this. Two things could be true. Yes, I think Charlie Kirk was a bad guy. Was he a criminal? No.
I don't think he was a good person.
I don't think he was a good person. Just because you don't think Charlie Kirk was a good person doesn't mean you believe he deserved what happened to him yesterday. If you think he deserved what happened to him yesterday, then you're not a very good person.
That's the point that people are missing.
The man was
interrupt
still,
you, but even the people in your chat yesterday, that's the point they're missing.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to emphasize. I didn't like Charlie Kirk. It's weird speaking about him, in that sense, but I never liked the guy. I thought he was bad for the country.
He talked bad about women,
yeah,
about minorities.
He was a misogynist. He was a racist.
Yes.
All those things, right? All the dog whistles. But that doesn't mean I'm condoning what happened yesterday, because I'm not. Political violence is never the right way to go under any circumstance. I can't be more clear on that. I was emotional on the air yesterday because when I looked at the videos in real time, and now I kind of think I wish I didn't, but it was important for me to see what happened. It got me very emotional, and I don't want to see those videos anymore.
It was hard. It's hard to watch.
So this is a human being. He might have been a bad person, but he's still a father, he's still a husband, and his kids and his wife were there. Can't imagine how traumatic that was for them. I have empathy. I'd like to think I'm a decent human being. But it doesn't mean I'm going to sit here and I'm going to defend Charlie Kirk. It doesn't mean I'm going to sit here and say what many of these people on the right are saying, that he was some sort of martyr. It doesn't mean I'm going to sit here and say that there should be a statue of him in Washington, D.C., but yet they take the Martin Luther King statue out of the Oval Office. I'm not saying any of that stuff. I don't think he was a martyr. I don't think he was some sort of hero. I don't think he was a good person. But he was a person. So two can be right at the same time, Leonard. That's the point that I'm trying to make here. And the point that I'm trying to make is I'm not defending Charlie Kirk. A lot of people thought I was yesterday. I was not. And I will not defend Charlie Kirk and what he stood for, because I think he stood for fascism. I think he stood for racism and bigotry. But we cannot lose ourselves and say he deserved it, because he didn't. We cannot lose ourselves and say, oh, I don't feel bad for what happened yesterday. It's bad for the country. It's bad for the country. A lot of people are very upset. There could be retribution. It's bad for America. It's bad for freedom of speech. It's bad for politicians. There's a lot of people that are worried and scared, and rightfully so. This is not a good thing that happened yesterday. I don't care what your opinions are on Charlie Kirk. This is not a good thing for America. Stop celebrating. If there's anybody out there that's celebrating, there's something wrong with you. It doesn't mean you have to cry. It doesn't mean you have to go to his funeral. It doesn't mean that you have to donate to Turning Point. But what it does mean is that if you didn't like the guy, maybe now's not the time to talk about
You
it.
shouldn't talk about it like it was a good thing.
Yeah, I didn't like the guy, but this was a bad thing that happened yesterday. Can't we all as Americans just agree on that? Every time an innocent person is killed at the hands of a gun in gun violence, it's a horrible thing. It doesn't matter whether it's gang violence in Chicago. It doesn't matter whether it's school violence in a school shooting at Uvalde or Minneapolis. It doesn't matter whether it's an innocent person on the street. It doesn't matter whether it's at a mall. Gun violence is gun violence.
Let me ask you this, Brian. Why does MAGA want to find somebody to blame, right? They want to narrow down. They want to find a group of people, an idea, a person. But even in that process, they still don't want to do anything about it.
Well,
like, are they trying to narrow it down so they can do something about it and say mental illness and red flag laws, and we want to make some progress? Their only issue is to be political
Charlie
theater.
Kirk tweeted out last year, guns make us safer. I tweeted that out, not to mock Charlie Kirk, but to prove a point. Do they?
Well, factually, no. But go ahead.
Yesterday, did guns protect Charlie Kirk?
He could have been armed. One of my friends asked me that. They said, "You think?" I said, "What do you mean if he was armed? He could have been armed to the teeth." Charlie himself.
Yeah.
In fact, he could have been wearing a vest. He could have wore a vest. It wouldn't matter.
That's why these people are so stupid, Leonard. I agree with you. You could have had every single person at that event armed with some type of gun.
He could have had snipers on the counter snipers on the roof.
Right.
And if they missed that guy, the same thing would have happened.
That's my point. We know of one gun that was used, and maybe you could elaborate a little bit more.
I have a little info.
Weapon. We know of one gun that was used. We know of one bullet that was used. We know one shot, and that's all it takes with these guns. So stop it with the rhetoric. I'm sorry, but Charlie Kirk was wrong about a lot of things, this being one of them, gun control. Gun violence took Charlie Kirk's life, sadly.
Well, he perpetuated it.
Yep.
He tried to make more guns and defend more guns. He didn't have any stance that said, let's slow it down. Let's take a look at this. Do people really need a gun that can put a 50 round drum in it and shoot 50 rounds in a row? Do we really need that?
No, this was hunting. This was from 200 yards away, my understanding.
Yeah, maybe a little less.
And maybe a little less, and it was on top of a building, and the guy had a clear shot. Obviously, we know that this was someone that was certainly knew how to use the weapon very well. I would imagine this is also somebody that scoped out the facility. I find it, I will mention this because I'm not a conspiracy theorist before we take phone calls at 702-221-7283. And again, the number 702-221-7283, because this is another part of this story that I'm going to have to bring up. I'm going to bring up a couple things, Leonard, and then I want to get your thoughts on this. So you see two people that were, I guess, in Charlie Kirk's security detail. Seconds before Charlie Kirk dies, there's video of this. You have one of these security guys who tips his hat and then taps his shoulder.
I think he goes to his ear.
Yeah, he touches his ear and tips his hat. And then you have another guy who does like almost
a bunt sign or something.
A bunt sign. Yeah. And then 2 seconds later, Charlie Kirk is dead. Now, I don't know if that has anything to do with it. All I'm saying, and I think you would agree with me, suspicious. What else is suspicious? They arrest the wrong guy, older white guy, then release him. Then Kash Patel puts out a statement on his social media that they believe they have a suspect in custody. And then an hour later, they let him go.
Well, then he said, it's not the suspect. We let him go. But let me tell you what happens from a police perspective. And we talked about this before the show. Once the word goes out that the suspect is in custody, we're not searching with the same aggression that we were.
Right.
We're not going guns drawn. We're not clearing buildings because we think the suspect. Now, there could be another suspect, so we still have to clear it, but it's not with the same intensity. So Kash Patel basically told everybody, okay, it's looking like we got the guy. And in my opinion, to be the head of the FBI and say stuff like that is just not, it's either, I don't know if it's incompetent or inexperienced, but that is not something that anybody in a leadership position should do.
I agree. This is what happens when you have a bunch of incompetent people in the DOJ.
Yeah. Talk show hosts.
You have Kash Patel, who puts out they believe they have the suspect in custody, and then an hour later they said, we let this person go after an interview. It is absolutely and positively insane and ridiculous. I do want to go to the YouTube super chat, if I may, before we get to the phone calls. Thank you, Winnie, for your donation. Winnie says, I do not support the murder of Charlie Kirk. I'm sad, sick, and horrified that Charlie Kirk supported the murder of Charlie Kirk. It is not an excuse to use the newly rebranded Department of War to start a civil war. Well, that's also a good topic to bring up, Winnie, because there are Steve Bannons of the world and others that have said we are now at war. Alex Jones, I expect him to make idiotic statements like that. But there are people on social media that have been saying this is war. And no, we are not at war. That is not true. IV4 says, I'm not celebrating, but he's not a hero like they are memorializing him. He's getting military war treatment like he was a soldier in war, bad stuff. Well, I agree with you there. He was not a soldier and he's not a hero. I certainly agree with you on that one. 150%.
We might have a little bit about the weapon if you want to touch on that.
Yeah, I definitely do want to do that as well before we get to phone calls. Have we gotten to all the YouTube? I think we have a few more YouTube super chats that we're going to get to here, and then we will get to the phone calls because I know there's a lot of people that want to chime in. Alexa said J.D. Vance is took Air Force 2 to pick up the family and his body to be buried. I think that's disgraceful. I don't agree with that. I think we have bigger arguments and bigger fish to fry, but I do understand what you're saying there. Kim says, Brian, it is too soon for Parker to come up live tomorrow. Can you not delay this a week?
I don't agree with that.
But I vote for reschedule. No, it's up to Parker. It's Parker's decision. If Parker wants to come on tomorrow, then he has the right to come on. And I want him to come on. If Parker says he's not ready to come on, then I'll say no problem. I'm going to leave that decision up to Parker. I want a first account, a view, a witness of what we saw yesterday. And I'd rather get that from Parker than some journalist or somebody else, because Parker had some sort of relationship with Charlie Kirk, and he was there. Before we get to the phone calls, and thank you, by the way, for your donations, give us a little information, because you know a little bit about the weaponry or the weapon that was used here.
So we don't have any real credible news outlet putting out information. What we have is a bunch of people online, social media, looking at pictures of the possible weapon. So I'll classify it that way. It appears to be, it's called a Karabiner 98 Kurz, which is an old German gun, very old, bolt action. They're saying, the people online are saying possibly a 30-06, but it's called a 98K, doesn't really shoot the 30-06. It shoots a 7.92. A 7.92, Brian, is a gigantic bullet. It's probably about this big. And so they said it holds 5 bullet rounds, usually, and a 4x8 scope, and it has a 4 to 8 variable scope or a 3x9 variable scope. What that means is you could be 200 yards away, and when you look through that scope and you see the crosshairs, you literally look like it's from me to you. That's how big the magnification is. And so less than 200 yards, they said it was 570 feet or something like that. And so that is not a tough shot. That's a hunting shot. You could do that, that's a deer rifle or an elk rifle shot. But the bullet itself, as you saw, I didn't think it was a 223 because a 223 is a AR-15. It's a relatively small round. This was a probably, and when you heard the bolt action of the gun or the crack of the gun, it sounded like a large round.
Yeah, there's no question about that. And as I said before we get to the calls,
one thing I forgot, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
And it looks like it was assembled at the site. There was a screwdriver found nearby. It looks like I think he disassembled it to put it in a backpack, so it wouldn't be this big, long-looking pouch that he had.
Oh, I'm sure.
And so it was assembled on site.
This was a well thought out plan. I don't doubt that for a second. But I'll say this again today. This is bad for the country. My thoughts go out to his children, his wife, his family. At the same time, I'm not going to sit here and call him a martyr or a hero, because he wasn't. I don't think Charlie Kirk was a good guy, but he did not deserve this to happen to him. It's a terrible, terrible look for the country, and my thoughts go out to his family and friends. I'm not going to sit here and say that he was some martyr, as I said, because he wasn't. I disagreed with everything he stood for, and this wasn't just policy disagreement. He made some terrible statements about minorities. He made terrible statements about people that were of a different gender than his, when it came to trans. And listen, I'm going to repeat this once again, because I think it's kind of interesting to note that in the last few seconds, not even moment, the last seconds of Charlie Kirk's life, he was talking about gang violence, and he was black on black
mass shooting.
Yeah, and he was talking about trans people. See, that's how I'll remember Charlie Kirk. I'm not going to remember Charlie.
Well, the person conceded the point because he said,
Right.
"Do you know how many?" They asked, "Do you know how many trans people committed mass
Yeah,
shootings?"
right.
And he said, "A lot." And the person said, "Well, 5."
Too many,
So-
he said.
Right, and then the person, you can kind of
5
almost
out of
hear
like
them.
400. Yeah.
Right, and the
Yeah.
person responded, said, "I would agree. 5 is a lot," and then went on with the next question after that. But he was talking about
Yeah.
mass shootings and gun
Yep.
violence,
And it was, Charlie Kirk again with the smug look on his face.
slamming the mic down.
yeah,
you
it's
know,
just,
kind of
listen.
sitting back.
Right. And it's very tragic now, but Charlie Kirk's not going to be going to any more rallies, and he's not going to be, I don't know who's going to be the face of Turning Point now, but I would imagine a lot of people on the left and the right are scared, to go out in public and to, that's why I say this is very bad for America. But I want you guys to chime in on this. I know there's a lot of people.
I think all people, even yourself, all influencers are probably going to have to be careful of their surroundings.
Well, there's a lot of crazy people out there. But there's a responsibility with what you say. Okay. And never have I ever attacked somebody because of their gender, because of their sexuality, or quite frankly, even because of their political affiliation. That I've said a lot of people today that still support Donald Trump are very ill-informed and uneducated people, but I've never said every single person. I've never taken an entire group of people. And unfortunately, Charlie made a living out of doing that, and he made a lot of money doing that. All right, let's get to the phone calls at 702-221-7283. Let's start off with Curtis. Curtis is first up on PTL. Hello, Curtis.
Hey, what's up, Brian? How are you?
Good.
Let me make this statement before you cut me off. I'm from New York City. Let me make this statement. Now, I don't know if you heard, but they got 7 or 8 black HSBCUs on lockdown because of what happened to Charlie Kirk.
Mm-hmm.
Let me say something. Whatever happened to Charlie Kirk, I'm so very sorry because nobody should lose their life because of their own opinions. Okay, now for them to have them 7 or 8 black colleges on lockdown, it says a lot about what America's about. People on the right are blaming black Americans. We had nothing to do with that. We had nothing to do with it. It was one of his own kind. I'm sorry that he got taken out the way he did, but black Americans not like that. We're not like that. He had it done from somebody on his own side.
Well, look, let me say this. I understand what you're saying, and you're right. But I will say this, and I think you'll agree with me on this. There are all sorts of different people that commit violence in this country. They're white, they're black. I don't care. I don't care what the color of your skin is. Yes, you're right. When it comes to this specific situation, it appears as though it was not somebody black who did this. But my point is, and I agree with you, and it's horrible, these universities that are being threatened because of the color of one's skin at these universities. It's horrible. But let's be honest, like there are all sorts of different people and different colors of the crayon book that commit horrible, violent crimes, right? I think you would agree with that, right?
Yes, I do agree. But let me ask you something, Brian.
Yeah.
How many blacks do you know that has, over the past history, been charged with this kind of?
Well, first of all, let me be clear. I don't know. I don't hang around or know anybody personally that commits violent crimes, so I'll say that. But
I'm talking about you per se. I'm talking about the media. How many blacks reported to the media?
I will say this: Fox News, and I've talked about this. Fox News and right-wing entities seem to enjoy to show black people committing crimes on their networks 24/7, but they rarely show that January 6th footage, and they rarely show white supremacy and white supremacists committing crimes. There's a reason for that, okay? It's called racism, it's called bigotry, and all they care about is ratings, and I think a lot of people that watch their networks are bigots themselves, and they enjoy that. Again, to be fair on this, and from what I can tell, based on the evidence and what we've seen, undocumented immigrants, black people, or transgenders had nothing to do with the assassination and horrible murder of Charlie Kirk yesterday. Be very clear on that. And anybody who is putting out threats to these black universities out there is despicable, and it's disgusting, and it should be called out because they had nothing to do with what took place yesterday.
Doesn't it show what's in their heart, though? When you talk about the MAGAs or the Turning Point America followers, and they immediately start attacking black colleges, and the reason they shut them down is because the threats were somewhat credible, and they're worried about a large-scale attack. Yeah. And so doesn't it say something about what's in their heart that they're taking this opportunity to start to attack colleges?
Or I'll even take it a step further, and you're right, sir, on the phone, but Curtis, it's not just these black colleges. You have right-wing media influencers like Laura Loomer and others that are blaming the entire left. half the country for what happened to Charlie Kirk yesterday. Number one, they don't even know the name of the individual or the political affiliation of the individual or the motive of the individual or individuals that were responsible for this. And number two, I have named time and time again mass shootings in this country and terrible. I mean, just a few months ago, State Representative Melissa Hortman, she was assassinated by a Trump supporter.
And her husband.
I talked
Trump
to
said nothing about that at his press conference yesterday. He
Nothing.
said nothing
nothing. Or
that
what
was-
about
that was less than
Democrat?
2 months
What
ago.
about Democrat Governor Josh Shapiro, whose home was targeted by a Trump supporter? You know, or as I mentioned, the Texas El Paso shooting in Walmart, where an individual who was a Trump supporter executed a bunch of brown people that was a Trump supporter because of the immigration rhetoric of Donald Trump. He put that in his manifesto. How about the man who sent pipe bombs to Joe Biden or Barack Obama? That wasn't a liberal, but they want to blame the left for all the political violence in this country. It's nonsense.
What I want to also say, most people on the left are black and brown, and that's who they're going to aim. That's what they're going to aim their anger to, black and brown.
So, Curtis, do you think
I'm afraid-
this is purely racist? Do you think that's really what's coming out and what's showing, and they no longer have to try to hide it?
Without a doubt, Charlie Kirk and Donald Trump made it understood that, okay, I'm in office now. All you guys, you don't need the white sheets anymore. You can come out. And that's what we have now.
Yeah, racism in plain sight. They're not hiding anymore. They're not trying to hide it. They're actually quite proud of it.
No, listen, they was trying to hide it, but once Trump got in office the first time, okay, that's when they all started coming out.
Well, here's a
Now,
question.
the second time,
Here's a question. If Donald Trump wants to give Charlie Kirk, now that he's gone, some sort of award,
Oh, he will.
then why wouldn't you give an award to Democrat State Representative Melissa Hortman, who was executed? Why wouldn't you give an award to somebody who lost their life because they were providing public service? Oh, yeah, by the way, Charlie Kirk wasn't an elected official. He was making millions of dollars with Turning Point USA, which, by the way, was his right. I'm not saying he was breaking any laws. And again, I'm not saying he deserved what happened to him yesterday. Obviously, he didn't.
No, he did. He did not deserve it.
He was an influencer. That's it.
It was an influencer. It's a horrible tragedy. But if you're going to give an award to Charlie Kirk, then why don't you give an award to a politician who happens to be on the left that was murdered because she was a public servant? Curtis, I do appreciate your phone call, my friend.
Thanks, Curtis.
And it's good to hear from you. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to Brett. Brett is next on PTL. Hi, Brett.
Hey, what's happening, fellas? Yeah, Brian, I feel terrible about what happened to Charlie Kirk, but I mean, as far as the left, I'm getting threatened by people that I know. It's not some of the people on the right that feel this way about us. It's the majority.
You're getting threatened.
And
You
they're
personally
all-
are getting threatened.
Yeah. Yeah.
What kind of threats?
Yes.
Like, what are they saying? Are you're talking about your
Physical
MAGA
threats.
friends or your Charlie Kirk friends?
Yes. Yes.
And what are they
Because,
saying?
you know,
How are
I-
they threatening you? What are they threatening to do?
To beat my ass, to whatever, to physically harm me.
So you
Because
think the threat
don't-
of violence is real? You think it's not just people talking trash?
It's absolutely real. And you know what? I'm tired of taking the high road with these people. And Charlie Kirk was an absolute scumbag. He said some of the most reprehensible things. Yeah, and I don't want anybody dead over it, but
neither do I.
It's just, I just wish that that they would use some of this energy, even a little bit of it, for the children that are being killed in schools.
They can't get there, Brett. They can't empathize with people. They can't step outside of their body and say, oh, let me think of what it would have been like to be that person. That's terrible. All they care about is political theater, MAGA, Fox talking points. And for some reason, obviously your friends are threatening you because you have a position that disagrees with them. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, I started, I started going through the end of the day yesterday, trying to stay somewhat, morally in the right frame of mind. But by the end of the day, I found myself like degraded to to saying some of the things that I really didn't want to say.
Unfortunately, Brett, you're going to have to distance yourself from those people, because if they should follow through, if you keep trying to talk to them and make sense to them, my experience, I have MAGA friends, I have MAGA family, and the more I talk and the more sense I make and the more facts I bring up and the more common sense I throw out there, the angrier they get. I have a family member who hasn't talked to me in a year or two. Just because of my political views, which I think is absolutely ridiculous. But they are capable of the violence, so you need to be careful.
I'm sorry that's happening to you. We need to call out any sort of political violence on both sides. Never would I ever say that there's never political violence on the left or the right. It happens on both sides of the aisle. And quite frankly, it shouldn't matter what side of the aisle it happens on. What happened on January 6th was atrocious. It was terrible. What happened to Charlie Kirk yesterday is terrible. We all need to be consistent. You're not a hostage or a patriot if you murder Charlie Kirk any more than you're a hostage or a patriot if you beat cops on January 6th. But Donald Trump called those people hostages and patriots. That is not being consistent. I don't want to hear MAGA Republicans and idiots on the far right, because that's what you are if you defended what took place on January 6th and you thought they were patriots, but now you want to blame the left for what happened to Charlie Kirk. You have zero credibility. 702-221-7283, the number to call. Let's go to Anthony. Anthony's next on PTL. What's up, Anthony?
Hey, I'm a first-time caller. I'm a little nervous.
Hi, that's okay.
I've got a controversial comment. I know you guys are going to get on me about it and probably call me a scumbag.
Go ahead.
I'm going to say this. You know, Charlie Kirk helped get elected a racist, a man that that committed an insurrection, committed violence. You know what? I'm really just not losing any sleep over the guy.
Okay,
dying.
hold on. Let me respond to what you just said. I'm not saying you need to lose sleep over the guy dying. And I'm not saying you need to cry and go to his funeral. Here's what I am saying. We need to admit and agree that political violence is never the answer. And what happened yesterday was bad for America. No matter what you think about Charlie Kirk, we probably agree on how we feel about who Charlie Kirk was, the human being. But that doesn't mean we should be saying that it's a good thing or celebrating it. The man still had kids. He has a wife, and he did not deserve to be murdered. Can we at least agree on that?
Sure.
Okay, then we agree. I'm not saying, Anthony, that you should have to, lose sleep over this or cry. Listen, I don't mourn for bad people. Okay, but here's the difference, Anthony, and I'm going to try to tell me if you agree. And Leonard, I want to get your thoughts on this too. The day Rush Limbaugh died, he wasn't murdered. Somebody didn't take his life. Cancer took his life. He died of a disease. I was on a very conservative radio station at that time, and they did not like what I had to say. But I'll say it again today. Rush Limbaugh may have died of cancer, but Rush Limbaugh was a cancer to society. He was a horrible human being. But Charlie Kirk did not die of a disease. He didn't die of natural causes. He was murdered. If Rush Limbaugh was murdered, I probably wouldn't lose sleep over Rush Limbaugh losing his life, but I would still say the same thing, which is bad for the country. Political violence has no place in society. Just because you don't like somebody or you think somebody is a scumbag or you don't like what they represent doesn't mean you could take matters into your own hands and kill somebody. Make no mistake about it. That's what happened yesterday, Anthony. And we have to call that out.
Can I hop in really quick?
Yeah,
Sure,
go ahead.
You know what? Charlie Kirk supported a man and also enabled a man, that's going to eliminate Medicare funding.
I understand.
Yeah, but in this country, you can't kill somebody for that.
Hold on. People will die. People will die. Whether he pulled the trigger or not, people will die because of what he done. Donald Trump and his son pretty much credit him for pushing.
Okay,
pushing
so listen, hold on, Anthony. I don't like anything in the big and beautiful bill. I agree with you that when you take 15 million people off of Medicare, people are going to die, but that still doesn't justify political violence.
And Charlie Kirk didn't vote on it. He's not even a legislator.
So we can't
No,
defend
Charlie
what took
Kirk
place
just got
yesterday.
online and influenced millions of young Americans to go to vote
In
for
this country.
guy.
In this country, that's allowed. That's part of your civil rights. That's part of your First Amendment rights. You can go out and you can have an opinion. And he was an influencer. He didn't threaten anybody. He didn't tell anyone to kill anyone else. He was an influencer. And in this country, that happens to be okay. And if you remember yesterday, Chuck Schumer, well, let me finish, Anthony, because Chuck Schumer, the minority leader of the Senate, the first thing he said was, we don't condone political violence.
Anthony.
Hakeem Jeffries, the same thing. That's how they started their speeches.
Yeah, Anthony, listen to me here, okay? You agree with me that we can't condone any type of political violence. You said you agree with me on that. I know you don't like what Charlie Kirk stood for. Neither do I. I don't think Charlie Kirk was a good guy. I think he was a misogynist. He was racist. And I think his message hurt a lot of people. With that being said, I still sit here before you to say, not defending Charlie Kirk. I put out a video on social media today saying, I'm not defending Charlie Kirk, but I will also never downplay what took place yesterday or defend what took place yesterday. I think there is a fundamental difference between not liking somebody and what they stood for and defending a murder. Do you see the difference, Anthony, where I stand?
I do see the difference, but you know what? You live by the sword, you die by the sword. The guy promoted
he didn't live by the sword. He didn't have a rifle.
Convinced people to vote for him, and in return, this is
but I disagree with that. But I disagree with that. He didn't condone violence. Last I checked,
he did.
Not that I can recall. I don't like
support. He didn't support the January the January 6th efforts.
I don't recall him ever saying.
He did.
I don't recall him ever defending those who beat police officers. I can tell you, I can name.
He didn't say anything bad against it.
Listen, he could have certainly been more vocal on that for sure. But at the same time, I'm still not going to sit here and say I'm happy what happened yesterday or defend any type of political violence. Quite frankly, Anthony, I think that's classless to do that. I really do. Yeah. I don't like Charlie Kirk either. A lot of what you said about Charlie Kirk, I agree with you on. I thought he was a bad guy.
He's not a good person.
He was not a good person, but that doesn't mean that because we think someone's a bad person or not a good person, an influential person that idiots look up to. Yes, I do believe that people who really love Charlie Kirk are idiots. I do believe that. But with that being said, it doesn't mean that people can take matters into their own hands. And we don't know who exactly this person was that's responsible for this, but we can't condone violence. I don't care what way. It could be a Black Lives Matter protest or it could be January 6th. You're not a hostage. You're not a patriot if you beat a police officer, and you're certainly not a hero if you execute somebody at a rally.
And if you're a responsible influencer, you can't tell people it was okay. You can't say you feel good about it. You can't say, oh, well, if you're a responsible person like Brian is, and he's on the right side of history, you have to tell people that, yeah, he was a bad guy, and we all disagree. He was a nationalist, and he was a xenophobe, but you know what? He didn't deserve that.
That's how I feel, Anthony, and I do appreciate your phone call.
Thanks,
There's
Anthony.
a way to have respectful conversation and in disagreement, Anthony. I think I just fundamentally disagree with you. Yesterday was a bad day for the country. We're going to get back to the YouTube Super Chat here in a few minutes.
Tell the people to keep calling in. The lines are full, but keep calling.
Yep. So let's go back to the phone lines here, and let's go to Gene. Gene is next up on PTL. Hello, Gene.
Hi, how are you today?
Hey, Gene. Lower your radio if you can, because we have a little bit of a delay.
I will. Yeah, let me get that down here.
Okay, thank you.
I totally agree with everything you've said. There is no justification for political violence. And I totally agree that Charlie Kirk's message was entirely toxic. He was not good for our society. But of course he was not. I mean, no one deserves to die by someone having some random decision that they're going to take their life, for crying out loud. That's why we have laws. But I want to point out that our so-called president today, because he does not believe in the law or in following the law, has contributed to this notion that nobody has to follow the law. And I ask myself, who would have the motivation to hire an assassin, the motivation and the funds to hire an assassin to kill a person? And why would they choose to do so for the person who is not really much of a threat? I mean, he had talking points. He didn't, I didn't agree with anything he said.
He was not a leader of men. He was not a legislator. He was not a judicial judge. He was just a guy that had an opinion that
Exactly.
people followed.
Where did his power lie? Well, he had millions of people who would be really upset at his death. Do you see my point?
Absolutely.
I don't want to
A
say
little
it
bit of
outright.
conspiracy theory.
Listen.
Well,
there
I
are-
understand that's what it could sound like. I'm just saying the door's open to almost anything.
Okay, so
We don't
here's
know
what
who
I'm
the
going
guy
to say.
was.
Here's what I'm going to say to the shooting. There are some very bizarre circumstances.
Very.
Number one, they arrested the wrong person. Number two, Kash Patel says they have somebody in custody, and then they let that
And then they
person
don't.
go. Number three, the shooter is still on the loose. Number four, there are cameras all over that university. They've only shown us a few images of this individual. I feel like they have a lot more that they could be sharing. There are a lot of weird circumstances.
The hand signals.
The hand signals that Charlie Kirk's security detail were doing, and look at the video if you don't believe me, literally moments before Charlie Kirk was shot, is very peculiar. That's all I will say. Now, I could also say, if you knew that Charlie Kirk was going to be shot by a high caliber weapon, why would you be standing a foot or two away from him? You could make that argument too, but those hand signals were really weird. One guy who did this with his cap and then touched his nose or ear.
But if,
another guy that did like a weird signal.
if you're experienced, if you're an experienced shooter, especially outdoors, like, you know, I could go to the range right now and, you know, I could go 100, 200 yards and, you know, because we used to qualify pretty far away, and I could put him right down the center. So if you and I and some friends and you knew me and we practiced together, you would be relatively sure I could shoot a soda can at a couple of 100 yards.
I'm not a conspiracy theorist, Leonard, but I will say that there were some peculiar things that happened yesterday. I would say the same thing about the first assassination attempt on Donald Trump, but two people lost their lives.
The one shot is interesting.
Yes,
that was one shot,
yes,
because he didn't try to light it up. There weren't several shots fired, and that shows possibly some kind of military or sniper training. And it looks like a young guy, the possible suspect, could have already been through the military, could be in the military on leave. That seemed to me like some sniper tactics.
I agree.
Putting the gun together, single shot, lots of confidence,
but Leonard,
and then escaping out the opposite way.
What you're saying is very logical, and I agree with you. The problem I have are people on the right that think they know who this guy is, and this was a liberal, and this was a Democrat, and blaming the left for everything.
Well, they're blaming black people.
It's so irresponsible.
Come on, that's
just
so far.
It's so stupid and irresponsible, and all Donald Trump would have to do would be to, which he would never do because he's not capable of empathy. Today, he's tweeted more about Vladimir Putin, I think, than he has about Charlie Kirk.
How about the president leads his speech like Hakeem Jeffries did and say, first of all, we don't condone political violence, okay?
Yeah.
And I don't want anybody retaliating. We don't know who to blame yet. And then he can give his opinion.
President Trump would never do that.
He led with blaming the left.
You're right. President Trump would never do that. Let's get back to the phone calls at 702-221-7283. Let's go to Rolf. Rolf is next up on PTL. Hello, Rolf.
Hello, Brian. How you doing? I missed you the other day. I've been watching you for quite a while, but I say finally able to break through. I just want to support you here. There's no excuse for murder. There's no excuse for a difference of opinion leading to someone's death.
Right.
And Trump deciding to blame the left is no surprise. They were looking for an excuse, which is what you've been talking about all morning. Mm-hmm. But you are right. You're struggling trying to get people to get this. You're not defending Charlie Kirk. Of course you're not. You're defending life.
Right.
And you're defending the right to live it.
Right.
The one thing that I have that really bothers me that Charlie has said repeatedly at different functions is that to keep our Second Amendment rights sacred, we have to tolerate gun death. Well, no, we don't. In the 90s, we had these fucking assault rifles.
Watch the language. Watch the language. We got to be careful with the language here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Swearing. Yep.
Pardon me. I apologize to everyone who heard that. You cannot condone gun violence, but you cannot light them up by telling them the left is guilty. You have no proof whatsoever. Mm-hmm. And that's what he was looking for an excuse to do. If you want to put flags at half-staff, put them at half-staff for every school shooting, too.
I agree.
You know,
that's my issue. If you're going to put flags at half-staff for Charlie Kirk, then why didn't you put flags at half-staff after every school shooting.
Children.
I'll tell you why.
It was a shooting yesterday.
I will tell you why, because it is political theater. That's what Donald Trump is doing.
Right.
It is political theater, and it is absolutely and abundantly disgusting. That's what it is. And I'm glad that you understand where I'm coming from, because I got a lot of pushback yesterday, especially after I did the Don Lemon show, and I did a few other shows yesterday. And I've been very, very consistent, on my opinions. What happened yesterday is despicable. It's disgusting. My thoughts are out to Charlie Kirk's family, his friends, his kids, his mother. I am not defending Charlie Kirk.
In
any way, shape, or form. I am not defending Charlie Kirk. I want to be very
stop.
clear on that.
Why I called you was to emblemize that to everyone who's ramming you. They've got to pull their head out of their ass and understand what you're trying to tell them. There's no excuse.
You made a good point.
Quite frankly,
Good
I would
point,
say
Ralph.
that I would say that there are a lot of MAGA supporters that certainly are obsessed with me, and they certainly want to quote unquote ram me. I would agree with you on that one. But anyway, thank you for the phone call. I appreciate it. Can we go to the YouTube super chat, if I may, because there's a lot of people that want their voices heard. Some of those people don't want to call in, and they leave a donation. And let me go to DHV Smoking Trees with his donation. He says, as this unravels, it's starting to look like another right on right crime where the left is being. Shelley says, I hope all the influencers are much more careful. I mean, all no one deserves is to be shot. Brian, when you're the man on the street, please be careful. I appreciate that, Shelley. James Carr says, now is the time to talk about gun laws, not during elections. I agree with you, James, 150% on that one. Mary says, it's sad what happened, but again, done by a white person. Could be possibly he was used as a scapegoat to take the heat off the Epstein files. Food for thought. I don't know if that's true or not, Mary. Could be. Danelle says, it's kind of hard to feel sorry for Mr. Kirk knowing how he felt about black people and all the racist remarks he said about us. Danelle, I'm not asking you to feel sorry about Charlie Kirk, but I am saying don't celebrate this, call out political violence, and feel sorry for his family. They didn't do anything wrong at a minimum. Danelle also says, before Trump got into office, Republicans have always been this racist, or is this new since Trump has been into office? No, it's not new, but I think a lot of people now feel more comfortable in the racism. Daniel says, I would also urge that most lefties didn't want him to go out like that because we would prefer him to have to see us win and admit he's wrong. Well, Daniel, listen. I don't want
overthinking.
Yeah, I think you're overthinking a little bit here. This is just bad for the country, but I understand why you would say what you say. All right, let's see here. Who should we go to next? 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Mark is next. What's up, Mark?
Hey, Brian Leonard. I was really, didn't really give a crap about Charlie Kirk yesterday. And then I started thinking about it. And my wife told me, you know what? What happens? This is what my wife told me. What happens if you were standing in the street talking to someone like you usually do about anti-MAGA, anti-Trump and all this, and some guy heard you, turned around because he didn't like that politics, took out a gun and shot you without warning? And I was thinking about it, and I said, well, it could happen on both sides, that 100%. I come to realize that gun violence is not the answer, but also I couldn't give a rat's you-know-what about Charlie Kirk. But I truly wish, Brian Leonard, that these Republicans who were all giving thoughts and prayers and crying about Kirk and giving a moment of silence in Congress, but yet not one word mentioned about that child who was shot and killed yesterday in a Colorado school.
2 of them.
Mm-hmm.
Why weren't they walking around with AR-15 lapels badges on their shirts after Kirk was shot and killed?
You know
How
why,
come
Mark?
they're
You
not
know why
wearing
they
them
were doing
now?
that.
Of course.
And we can't, and what Brian is saying and what you're saying is correct.
Yeah.
In this country, the way it goes, and I don't care what the MAGAs or anybody says, the way this country is designed is you have a First Amendment right to have your opinion, be political, have talks, chat with people, and you cannot be killed for it. You should not be killed for having your views. That's why this country operates differently.
One more thing, Leonard, that when you mentioned that Patel had named that we got the suspect, and I do agree that the search winds down and everyone's not really as intense looking and all that, which gives the suspect, a chance to escape, actually. This is what happens when you hire clowns and appoint clowns, you get a clown show. And that's exactly what the FBI is now, a clown circus.
Well, you know what, Mark? We're taught to go after the threat and continue to relentlessly pursue the threat. If you tell us a threat's in custody, we still pursue, but we go more to a search and rescue mode where we search everything and we go slowly and methodically. And I think that was a huge mistake, but that's what you get when you put someone with no experience in charge of the FBI.
I'm going to say this once again, and thank you for the call, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
You don't have to defend Charlie Kirk, but you can have some empathy and acknowledge that this was a horrible, tragic event that took place yesterday. It's bad for the country. This man has a family. You don't have to defend Charlie Kirk and say that you're going to lose sleep. You don't have to donate money to Turning Point USA, but you can admit that this was a bad day for the country and political violence is never the answer. Why is that so hard for so many people?
It needs to stop. That's the point.
Of course, on both sides, no matter where it starts from. 702-221-7283 is the number to call if you want to be a part of the conversation. Paul's calling out of Texas. Let's go to Paul. Paul, what's up?
Hey, how you doing, Brian?
Good.
You know, I think that what happened yesterday was tragic. It's very sad. People need to step back and ask ourselves, was this a politician? And why have we decided to say that it's politically motivated? When you start rising in the status of being a celebrity, there's a whole host of things that can happen. We have to step back and not say that it is politically motivated at this point. You know, I mean, I think it's easy to do that. I think everybody's doing it. Yeah. But I think we have a lot of facts to look at here.
Sure.
Okay, they said it was a political action. They said it was a political assassination.
So we don't know what it was. Yeah, but we don't know. I hesitate to say that because we don't know the person who even did this yet.
I said that to people. Exactly. I said they could maybe personally not like
Charlie Kirk. I think we have to step back.
They could have known him from somewhere and just been mad at him.
There are prominent people. Forget about politics for a moment. And I'm forgetting of the musician that I am thinking of, but there was a popular female musician who was executed at a meet and greet like 4 years ago. And for whatever reason, I'm forgetting her name. And the guy who killed her was a mentally ill man that was a fan of hers. Yeah. Now, I'm not saying that happened here, but what I am saying is we don't know. And if you don't know, you don't blame the left and you don't call it a political attack. The governor was very irresponsible in making that statement yesterday because he has no idea.
What if it was for notoriety or so that he can go down in history?
Exactly.
It had nothing to do with any of that.
Right.
Or maybe he
look what happened to Trump on the first one.
Yeah.
Didn't one of the shooters
on the first attempt it was supposedly a fan,
because it was so close to their house? Maybe they came into their neighborhood and he looked at it as an opportunity. We don't know.
That's my point, and I agree with what you're saying, caller. We don't know. We know that Charlie Kirk is dead. We know that he was assassinated. We don't know the motive. We don't know the person who's responsible for this. But I'm going to tell you something. If it turns out that the person who did this is actually a Republican, I guarantee you all these idiots on social media
go away fast.
will never retract what they said. They won't apologize. They won't say, geez, I'm sorry. I blame the left for this. I was wrong. They did the same thing with the first assassination attempt of Donald Trump when it was a registered Republican. It was a registered Republican. And in fact, the second
assassination. Have you heard anything about that kid since?
No. And the second assassination attempt was from a guy who once voted for Donald Trump. But they blame the left. They tried to do it to Donald Trump. Oh, really? Who's they? One person who was a registered Republican at the time of the shooting and another person who once voted for Donald Trump. So who's they? Who's they when they say they killed Charlie Kirk? Who's they? You don't even know who the shooter is, you idiots. You guys are idiots is what you are. You're idiots.
They're trying to get ahead of it by jumping on the left-wing bandwagon, and it's their fault because, like you said, Brian, it might turn out to actually be a Republican, and then they're not gonna backtrack. They don't care.
Yeah, I think I was. By the way, thank you to those in the chat. It was Christy Grimmie who I was thinking of. Christy Grimmie was a wonderful, brilliant singer, a great young lady who was at a meet and greet. I think it was either before or after one of her shows, and one of her obsessed fans, who was clearly mentally deranged, took her life for no reason. I'm not saying this happened. This is what took place yesterday. All I'm saying is we don't know. We don't know. But if you're an irresponsible MAGA fool, you go on social media, you blame lefties, you blame liberals, you blame transgenders. You have no idea what you're talking about. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. let's go to Frank. Frank is next on PTL. Hello, Frank.
Hey, Brian. Hey, Leonard.
Hi, Frank.
I have no feeling about what happened to Charlie Kirk other than his wife and 2 kids. I can say that. And I think that, to be honest with you, I think Charlie Kirk was a sacrificial lamb. So it detracted from everything that is going on right now.
Well, Frank, as
That's
I've
my
said,
opinion.
I understand, Frank. As I've said before, and I will say again, I'm not here to defend Charlie Kirk. I will not defend Charlie Kirk, but I will always defend freedom of speech, and I will always defend those who have differences of opinions, although how bad those opinions might be and how it might hurt the country. It is never an excuse for political violence and somebody to be executed.
And there's no evidence. There's no talk about a conspiracy, and people can have, Frank can have his opinion on what actually happened, but there's no proof of that.
702-221-7283, the number to call. Let's go to Jackson. Jackson is next up on PTL. Hi, Jackson. Thanks for calling in. What's on your mind today? I think we just hung up on Jackson by accident. So we will go. Jackson, I apologize about that. Please call back. That was a boo-boo. Let's go to Stacy. Stacy is next up on PTL. Hi, Stacy.
Hi, Brian. Hi, Leonard.
Hi,
Stacy.
Listen, I've got a couple things here, so I'm going to make it quick. I wanted to shout out to the YouTube Super Chat Smoking Trees and tell him I agree. I think it's right on right. I don't think the left had anything to, and I just, there's something about this. It just doesn't sit right with me. For one, Nancy Mace called Charlie Kirk out like, I don't even think it's been less than a month ago. She called him a political opportunist and a charlatan, and said that he wouldn't have his whatever it is, his political career if it wasn't for Donald Trump, and basically trying to turn him anyway. And then the other thing I wanted to say is the political violence has already started. Ed Krasenstein 2 hours ago said that Capitol Police alerted members of Congress and staff that the DNC headquarters were told to shelter in place, and there was bomb threats.
Right. Yeah,
I did hear that.
That was news.
Yeah, I did. Those were false flags. But listen, let me be very clear here. We should all be on alert. I'm not downplaying this.
Oh, yeah.
That's why I immediately tell people, forget about your thoughts on Charlie Kirk. This is
I think it goes to their narrative. It goes to the right and Donald Trump's narrative to make us out to be horrible and that we're to blame for this. And I just don't think that it's going to turn out that way. Just like his 2 shootings of the attempted murders of Donald Trump or whatever you want to call them. We weren't responsible for that either. They want to make us out to be the left or the liberals to be these horrible, violent people, and it's just. I read statistics yesterday that for 22 liberal murders, there's been 300 and something Republican violent crimes and death, it resulting in deaths. So 300 and something to 22. So I mean, it's just not even the same. We're not.
You're right. I completely agree with you.
They're just trying to jump on this before the actual truth comes out.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to take the opportunity to place blame. And the sad part is the MAGAs will get that in their mind, and that'll be their talking point. And like a dog with a bone, they'll never let it go. That's the sad part.
I was talking with Z yesterday, who is the founder of the UNF America Tour, because their entire platform was going against Turning Point USA. And we were supposed to have somewhat of a debate with Charlie Kirk in December, and I was looking forward to going out to Phoenix. I don't know if that's still going to happen, but I was talking to Z yesterday. One of her close friends is the guy who was literally asking the question when Charlie Kirk was assassinated. And I said, hey, I'd like to get this guy on the show. And she's like, he is a wreck. A lot of people want to talk to him. He's a wreck. Can you imagine if you were the person that was asking, literally having a dialogue with Charlie Kirk when he said his last,
it was only maybe 5 feet away, 6 feet away. That's very close.
It's just so traumatic. So we have to remember this isn't just about Charlie Kirk and his family. Obviously, our focus is there, but it's also on everyone else that was there.
They ruined a lot of lives.
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine? Because I think about the October 1 shooting in Vegas, and obviously today being the anniversary of September 11th. All those people that are running, they have no idea what's going on. For all they know, it could be a massacre, mass shooting. I would have thought that. And as I'm running, I would have been thinking, oh my God, am I ever going to see my family again? Am I going to see my parents again? Am I going to see my friends again? All those people, everything must have been going through their minds at that point, because when you hear a shot fired in a large group of people, that's the first thing you think in the times that we're living in. Is this going to be another mass shooting? Is this how I'm going to go out? That's the way I was thinking. And my understanding is that's the way a lot of those people were thinking.
Right. And nobody thinks right off the bat, oh, that must be a Democrat. That must be a lefty. Nobody thinks that. They just want to get away.
Yeah. Yeah. So now there's also some breaking news, and it just seems like every day. UMass, I grew up not too close from UMass Boston. There's a report of a shooting on campus there right now. So we'll continue to monitor that situation. 702-221-7283 is the number to call if you want to be a part of the conversation. Let's go to Jackson. Jackson is next up on PTL. Hello, Jackson.
Hello, how you doing?
Hey, good.
Hey, Jackson.
How's it going?
It's going well. I just want to say, first of all, I'm a big fan of the show. I appreciate your commitment to telling the truth, whether it's reflective of your party or not, or I just appreciate that.
Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate it. I want to tell you, I want to be very clear with you. I'm not a member of any party. I'm an independent, believe it or not. I certainly lean to the left on social issues, and I feel like I have almost nothing in common with the Republicans today. But I want to be very clear on that. I didn't vote for Hillary Clinton. I also didn't vote for Donald Trump. I made a mistake, obviously, but I try to be an independent thinker. It's just, I try to call balls and strikes, but these days I don't have a lot in common with Republicans. But go ahead, Jackson. Sorry to interrupt.
No, I completely understand that viewpoint. I get that completely. So what I wanted to say is, first of all, I feel incredibly sad for Charlie Kirk's family. I didn't agree with him on almost anything, but still I don't agree with him being murdered in this fashion. I don't want that for anybody in this country. One thing I do want to ask you, I want to ask your opinion on, is I feel that in America, we deal with a lot of misinformation, and that kind of thing. I feel like props up people like Charlie Kirk. How do you feel that we can combat this plague that has taken over information and social media in this country?
Well, that's a really good question that you asked, Jackson. And I can tell you right now, if I didn't do a radio show, I would not be on social media, because I think for the most part, it's a cesspool of negativity, hatred. And there's a lot of kids that are on social media, some who have committed suicide. I think social media is very bad for society. Unfortunately, what I do for a living to promote the show and to get guests, I have to use social media. But, and by the way, I'm not particularly talking about necessarily YouTube or even TikTok. I'm primarily talking about Twitter, and also known as X. I think it's Twitter and X, whatever you want to call it, promotes a lot of hatred and bigotry. I think YouTube does a really good job for the most part of getting rid of that sort of thing. I think YouTube's pretty good. TikTok, I think, might take it a little bit too far, but they certainly don't allow certain things. I think TikTok could do a little bit more work there. I think there are other platforms out there like Rumble that are atrocious. They let their hosts say the N-word. I mean, it's just, it's horrible. Yeah, go ahead.
So, Jackson, you were asking what we can do. In my world, and to a certain extent, Brian can speak for himself, you stick to the truth. You stick to the facts. No matter how much they try to change it, no matter how much fake news they put out and inaccurate facts and talking points, what I try to do, and what I see Brian do, is you stick to the facts, the common sense. What would a good person do? What would the person in the right do? And call out right from wrong. I don't care what the politics of the moment are. There's right and there's wrong, and what happened to Charlie Kirk was wrong. So stick to the facts. That's how you fight the shady MAGAs. That's how you stand up to them. That's how you influence other people. We've had people call the show and actually thank Brian for changing their mind. They called in 3 or 4 times and we argued with them. And then they called in again and they said, you know what, Brian, you make a lot of sense. And you convinced me that I was in the wrong. So stick to the facts.
Those conversations are few and far between.
We have one or two, maybe.
They do happen from time to time. Let's go to John. John is next up on PTL. Hey, John, what's going on?
Hey, gentlemen, how are you? Well, we were talking the other night, and I was saying something bad was going to happen, and what happens.
You're right.
It's unfortunate. Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I'm starting to think what other people are thinking. I mean, I'm not saying it's possible. I don't want to go into conspiracy theories. Trump likes to start stuff to start trouble. So who's to say the government didn't pull a Kennedy and have somebody go in there and shoot Charlie Kirk?
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. Let me respond to that. We don't know. I'm not saying you're wrong. I would say it's doubtful, but possible.
Yeah.
We don't know. It could have been any situation. It could have been just a crazed lunatic who was a Charlie Kirk fan. It could have been somebody who disagreed with Charlie Kirk, who's a Democrat. It could have been a Republican. It could have been
somebody
an inside job.
Somebody that debated
could have been
him.
anybody.
Right.
The point that and I'm not saying you're wrong. All I'm saying is we don't know. And I think it's so irresponsible for people to make gross assumptions, and it bothers me. It bothers me.
And not people saying like, he's dead. You shouldn't.
Well, that's just awful. You can't talk like that. The guy had a family. You don't have to have liked Charlie Kirk. Listen, nobody despised Charlie Kirk more than I did, but never in a million years would I ever say he deserved this or celebrate. And you heard me on the air yesterday. I am a genuine person. The way I am on the air for the most part is the way I am off the air. I speak my mind. But yesterday, I had no idea that this was going to happen, and I had to read it, and I had to watch it live on the air, and I was emotional yesterday because I am a human being, and I would like to think I am a decent person, and I have some sense of decency. The worst thing maybe I'll do in my life is call somebody a moron or a buffoon. I'm not a criminal. I have a moral compass. I want everyone to be treated as equals in this country. And yes, I feel for Charlie Kirk's family. Yesterday was a very hard day to do a radio show. It's not what I planned to talk about. And, it's not good for the country.
He was actually kind of a small fish in a pond. I'm not saying he
pretty big,
wasn't well known, but, Trump would be like the biggest fish in the pond. Charlie Kirk could be one of the smaller fishes in the pond.
He was not a celebrity yet, but he was a million people.
I'm going to tell you this.
Subscribing.
I'm going to tell you this, my friend. As much as I despised Charlie Kirk, I don't think anybody could doubt the fact that there was a chance that one day he could be the president. He could have run as a Republican.
Donald Trump said that.
Charlie Kirk, regardless of what you think of him, he had the tools to be like a Donald Trump, to win. I'm not going to discount that. He probably one day
hate and people listen.
Yeah, one day he probably would have been a politician, but he was making a lot of money with Turning Point USA. Now I wouldn't have voted for him, but that's just the matter of fact. I'm not going to say Charlie Kirk was a small fish in a large pond. I'm going to say Charlie Kirk was one of the biggest, most popular.
He was up and
right wing entities out there. Let's go to Ira. Ira is next up on PTL. Hi, Ira.
Hey, how you doing, man?
Good.
Cool. Yeah, so first time I called in, man. I've watched your show for a while.
Thank you.
I know we've touched a lot of different topics today. My comment is about Charlie. I don't see how how can we memorialize him as a hero? Like
I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that.
No, I'm not. Yeah. But I'm saying like the CNNs are doing it.
Is CNN doing that? I was unaware.
Doing what?
Is CNN portraying him as a hero? I didn't.
Yeah, it's more like he was a debater. He was that type of guy.
Listen, his organization he started in 2018. It was very successful. They had multiple college campuses where they had chapters where people signed on. They raised millions of dollars. You can't fake. I've worked on campaigns. You can't fake raising millions of dollars.
Listen, Leonard is a hero. Okay. A firefighter, a former police officer, which is Leonard. If you are willing to or if you served in the military, I consider you a hero. I don't think Charlie Kirk would have gotten involved in this if he knew he was going to be shot and killed at the age of 31. Charlie Kirk is a guy that said the things that he wanted to say. He was willing to debate a lot of people, which I actually do appreciate that, even though I thought he was not a good person. But I wouldn't consider Charlie Kirk ever to be some sort of martyr or hero. I don't think you get into politics.
No, he was smug. He was arrogant.
Yeah.
He wasn't a person of the people. He had followers like Trump, people that were basically, I don't want to say brainwashed, but kind of cultish, I guess you could say.
Right. So that's how I feel about. Yeah. So anyone who portrays him to be a hero.
Well, that's what like I said, that's what the media is doing. That's what I gather, right? It's like, they're just having these like MSNBC, CNN, like they're just talking about him like he was this debater. He won debate fair and square. He didn't
wear him
down.
He didn't win him fair and square. I can give you
no,
examples.
not at all. I mean, listen. I'm not here celebrating the death of this guy, but his whole platform was based upon going to these universities, semi-debating these people. But what he was actually putting them down in front of the MAGA people. They were just laughing at, like, pretty much just embarrassing.
And his facts were not accurate. He didn't always have.
Yeah,
Can I mention
Charlie Kirk? Okay, I just want to say this. Charlie Kirk debated a bunch of 18 and 19-year-old liberals. He was making millions of dollars a year, traveling to universities all over the place, doing his podcast and spreading hateful rhetoric. That is not the definition of a hero. Let me be very clear on that. Heroes are those who are firefighters and police officers and those who served in the military. Again, I'm repeating myself, but Charlie Kirk was not a hero. Let's stop it with the nonsense. If there's anybody in the media that is calling him that, I feel for his family and friends. He did not deserve this to happen. But just because somebody gets slaughtered doesn't mean that they're a hero. Okay. And I am also going to say this. I'm sick and tired of people saying, oh, look at the left did with George Floyd and they put him in a golden casket and this and that. Let me be very clear. There is a fine line difference between if you're murdered by another citizen and if you're murdered by somebody in law enforcement. George Floyd was murdered by a police officer. That is different. While they're both tragic and horrible, Derek Chauvin is convicted of murder. And a lot of people believe, and I'm one of them, that race was a factor. Okay. I'm not defending what took place yesterday. It's just as horrible, but it is a different circumstance that if someone is assassinated and someone who is in law enforcement that you're supposed to trust murders you.
Did you know Charlie Kirk defended in a debate? He defended Chauvin.
Yeah, because Charlie Kirk is a racist.
Okay, but
he
this
was
is how he won debates. He was talking to a black female who obviously didn't have any direct knowledge and claimed that the police department authorized the knee on the neck as a way to. It's not true.
It's a lie.
Right. So he was trying to justify what happened. And it's not, you put your knee either on the shoulder blades or on the center of the back, in between the shoulder blades. There is no department that I know of that allows you to put the knee on the neck. And when he said, I can't breathe, at that point, if you keep the knee on the neck, there's an intent, is there not?
Yeah. There's no.
So that's how Charlie Kirk argued.
But the right is now saying the left put George Floyd in a gold coffin and they celebrated him and this and that. And why don't we do the same thing for, first of all, completely different circumstances. While they are both tragic, I'm happy to say I haven't heard anybody on the right say that Charlie Kirk died from a fentanyl overdose. So I guess that's good news if you want to say.
And we're not condoning law enforcement violence.
Exactly. 702-221-7283 is the number to call if you want to be a part of the conversation. Let's see here. Let's go to Michelle. Michelle is next up on PTL. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, I'm actually calling you from the state of Utah. My daughter was actually in class the day Charlie Kirk was shot.
Wow.
And of course, it's a parent's worst nightmare.
Can you, first of all, I'm so sorry your daughter had to go through that. When you heard of this shooting, what was that conversation like, that first conversation with your daughter?
She was in class and they were on lockdown.
Mm.
Yeah.
What did she say to you?
She just said, we're on lockdown. Somebody was shot. And immediately, I am a user of Reddit. I guess that's okay to say on your show.
Yeah.
And I had seen that Charlie Kirk was going to tour Utah. And immediately, I actually had a feeling. I was like, let me back up a little bit. I was a registered Republican in 2016. And when Donald Trump was the nominee, I left the Republican Party.
Can I go back? And I'm sorry to interrupt you, Michelle. I just want to go back to your daughter. So your daughter calls you She says that
She messaged
the
me.
university
Yeah.
is on lockdown. You don't know exactly what's going on at that time. When you
No.
put on the TV, which I would assume you did,
I did about 10 minutes or so later because, and I had to go, actually, I had to go to Fox News Live.
Oh, wow.
Because nobody was covering it.
Is your daughter there with you now?
No, no. She's a college student. She's 27.
Are there classes today?
Studying biology.
She can always call in.
Yeah. So
is there classes today? Is there classes today?
I don't know right now.
So what happened? How long was she in lockdown?
Not long. I don't think it was that long.
Yeah.
They did a mandatory evacuation.
Yeah.
And she told me, Mom, I'm walking to my car.
Yeah.
And I said, all right. So, and then I started Googling things, and my first instinct went to the fact that I saw Charlie Kirk was going to be, and I started was it Charlie Kirk? And her partner messaged yes. And she was talking with both of us. So
isn't this almost, I hate to say this, Michelle, isn't this almost like the natural norm in America where a parent gets a phone call that somehow their son or daughter is on campus or in a school that's in lockdown? It's almost like it's a normal.
How would that feel?
Yeah, I can't imagine what that felt like for you, but it's almost like this is a normal thing.
Yeah, no, and that was going to be my question, not my question, but my statement for this call was going to be universities. I mean, any school should be safe for children, but universities was supposed to be a place to share ideas, conflicting ideas, like, I don't agree with you, but let me hear you. And here we are. And it breaks my heart. And I'm like, is it ever going to get back to that?
I don't know.
Where we can just share our ideas and say, hey, I disagree with you. Let's talk it out.
Now, you told me that you're a registered Republican. Is that right, my dear? I
was. In 2016, I left the party and became, my thing is unaffiliated party now because I can't.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe that they were nominating Donald Trump. And even in my Facebook memories, it comes back, all the things I was like, don't vote for this guy. And so I left that party. Yes.
Well, good for you. I certainly know a lot of people like you that have.
And we're glad your daughter wasn't hurt and she made it out of there okay. That's
me too.
That's good
I
news.
am, and it was just crazy. But that was my question. I just want folks to really think about: Can we send our children to school safely?
Well, here's the problem, Michelle. Michelle, here's the problem, and there's plenty of problems with Donald Trump and the Republican Party, but I'm going to give you one right now because you reminded me of one. MAGA Republicans and Donald Trump care more about kids that they feel like are being indoctrinated in schools and turning gay or transgender than they actually care about gun violence. Now, last I checked, no child's ever been killed from drag queen reading. And last I checked, no schools are giving children transgender surgery. But if you speak to these MAGA imbeciles, because that's what they are, they believe when Donald Trump says you could drop your kid off at school and come back another gender. No, here's the problem. You could drop your kid off at school and your kid might not go home. But you'll never hear Donald Trump talk about that. They're obsessed over transgenders because they are all a bunch of idiots that are partially responsible for so much of the gun violence that happens in this country.
And they're teaching their kids, like I wrote in your comment section, that this is not a cookie cutter nation. It's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be a melting pot. People are supposed to be free here to do as they choose. First, do no harm. And it just irritates them that they don't look like this cookie cutter couple. You know, it makes me absolutely sick to my stomach.
Michelle,
these people I've never met, and the people, if there is transgenders committing crimes or shootings, it's probably because their mental health is off the charts because they're not accepted in
Amen.
this life. Just
Amen.
leave people alone.
I agree.
Leave people alone. Let
Yep.
them love. Let them. I have never met. I have some of the best friends that are gay or trans, and they're kind and they're good people. Better than some of the
I completely
other
agree. I completely.
religious
Michelle,
people
if you don't
I've
mind me
met.
asking, what is your daughter's first name? If you don't mind me asking.
Amanda.
Amanda. Well, we're very glad that Amanda's okay.
We're glad she made it home.
Thank you.
We're very sorry that she had to go through that. I'm sure that was
Thank you.
a traumatizing experience for anybody.
Yes.
And I'm sorry, your family had to go through this. I'm glad she's okay, and I'm glad you're a good mom. You sound like a wonderful person, and also
Thank you.
a logical person that did not support
Thank
Donald
you.
Trump, which I also appreciate.
Nope.
Well, Michelle, you
Nope.
take care. I appreciate your story, and
Hey,
things, hopefully things are going to be okay.
Grateful. I'm grateful for the notification that popped up on my phone to come and click on you guys.
Well,
Thanks,
thank
Michelle.
you. Well, thank you. I wish
Thank you, guys.
I wish every great female would get that buzz on their
call.
phone.
Good call.
Why can't every female just get a buzz on their phone? Hey, Brian Shapiro, give him a call. Boy, my life would be awesome. Anyway, in all seriousness, Michelle, I'm glad your daughter's okay, and I appreciate your phone call.
Thank you.
At the end, towards the end of the show, we're going to get back to the YouTube super chat because there's a lot of people that want their voices to be heard. Let's go to Michael. Michael's first up. What's up, Michael?
Hi, my friends. How you doing?
Good.
Hi,
What's
Michael.
on your mind?
I really appreciate everything that you do. I saw you on Don Lemon, and
Thank you.
I'm here in Las Vegas, and I watch a lot of podcasts, and I really try to stay up. I think you're one of the best out there. You
Thank
have really a great heart, and please keep it up. I just wanted to say something in regards to anger and retribution. So, to make a long story short, I'm a professional musician here in Las Vegas, and in 2002, I was attacked on stage by the other guitar player in the band.
Oh my God.
And
wow.
And he broke my jaw and my nose in front of the entire crowd. Pretty much the exact same weather as was yesterday, same time of day. And I do have.
Wait a second. You're not Perry Farrell, are you? Or you weren't attacked by Perry Farrell? What was that? What's the name of that band? Jane's Addiction.
Right.
Jane's Addiction.
You're
no.
not Dave
No,
Navarro.
this
Is
was
this? Are you Dave Navarro?
No.
Saying that you're Michael?
I'm a very. I play the blues, and I'm really
gotcha.
Stevie Ray Vaughan and B.B. King.
Wow.
There's a lot of passion in that particular industry in Las Vegas. I saw, and in New York too, where I grew up and lived and played. A lot of musicians get intimidated when I am on a higher level, and I start getting jobs around them. Also, I play the drums and I play the guitar and the bass, so I'm getting jobs. And one guy in particular started having these angry faces, and I even moved out of town and went to college for several years. I came back, he's still here. He sees me again, and he's very, very angry towards me. I joined many bands, so I ended up in his band again, and he, a few months later, he was harboring anger towards me, and he just attacked me, broke my jaw right there, stomped on my face. They pulled him off me, and he got felony assault charges, but he just decided to never pay restitution, never fix my teeth, my jaw would be $100,000.
Not to interrupt you, by the way, I'm very sorry that happened to you, but help me correlate this to Charlie
but
Kirk.
it's positive.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, no, just tell. What's the correlation you're trying to make?
The correlation is that he did not do what he was supposed to do, and I was left being the victim since 2002.
Yeah.
I pursued it. The judges told me you're probably not going to get paid because the laws in Nevada. I just really was, one of those.
Well, that's
guys
horrible.
who could have been pushed to the edge.
You were the victim.
And and I was getting to the point where I was going to, go after this guy and take him out because that's how I felt. It was really, really bad. That he knew my family members were older and sicker and this kind of thing. And he just was like, I don't care. You are a POS. And I was like, I'm going to do something. Some wise friend of mine who was into Zen and those type of Buddha things, he said, don't do it. It will ruin your life. Think on a higher level and these type of things. And he's not worth it. All of these things are important.
Musician violence is never
any form of violence,
any kind of
violence.
violence.
So, my friend, thank you for listening.
Thanks, Michael.
And I'm sorry you had to go through that, Michael. I really am. And all forms of violence are absolutely atrocious. Let's get the YouTube super chat out of the way here because we got a lot of people on the YouTube super chat that have made donations, and I want to go to them right now. I believe I've missed a few, so let's get those in there right now if we can. All right, let's see. Who am I starting with here? I am going to start off with MJ, who says, Impetus himself, that's the new name for Donald Trump, Impetus, I think there's pills you could take for that, blamed the radical left from the Oval last night. Tell him to STFU. Well, I agree. I wish I could tell him that. I do have one of his cell phones. Maybe I will give him a call and tell him that. Thank you, MJ.
Thanks, MJ.
For that. We appreciate you. Dying Breed Garage said, hi, Brian and Leonard. Quick question for Leonard. What is your expert opinion on what level marksman can pull that off? Seems to be high. Thanks, guys. I think that's a good one. And by high, I don't think he meant marijuana high. Before you answer that, let me just go to Dave, who said, look, people, this guy was at the wrong place, So stop with the bull or all the analogies.
Okay, I don't agree with that.
Yeah.
That's not wrong place, wrong time.
No, that wasn't wrong place, wrong time.
That was planned.
They knew that Charlie Kirk was going to be there, with all due respect, Wayne, whoever did this. So I'm not sure it's wrong place, wrong time.
Just quickly, so I think a lot of people, because of the placement of the shot and the accuracy, assume there was some sniper training. But I can tell you, with a rifle like that at less than 200 yards with a scope and a very high-powered round, that's a fairly easy shot for a hunter, even teenage hunters.
Yep.
However, when I look at the entirety of the situation, how he got in, how he got out, he put the weapon together on the roof and then snuck out the back. One shot, one kill. I would say there's a possibility there was some sniper type training there.
All right, next up, let's go to KC. KC is next up on PTL. Hello, KC.
Hey, bud, I'm sorry that me and you bumped heads yesterday, but I want to thank all those that supported me. I saw you played a little clip of me on your YouTube thing, and I want to thank all those that supported me. But I didn't get a chance to finish what I said. But you summed it up today, and what I was trying to explain is he promoted Christian nationalism. He was pro Proud Boys. He was pro.
So Casey, I understand. For those of you that are not aware, Casey called into the show yesterday, and by the way, it was within an hour after Charlie Kirk was shot, and Casey called Charlie Kirk a Nazi. Now, when I hear the word Nazi, I think of people who murder people because of their religion, like what took place during the Holocaust. Okay, Nazis are people who literally
there's tyranny, there's oppression.
Yeah, they murdered people because they were Jewish. Now, I am not. I say this once again. I'm not defending Charlie Kirk. I'm not doing that. But when you call somebody a Nazi, you're basically calling them a murderer. Now, his ideology was full of hatred and bigotry. I agree with you. But I think the word Nazi certainly shouldn't be used on someone who never committed a crime. And it definitely, and it definitely shouldn't be used literally minutes after someone is murdered. So I disagree with you.
Well, I mean, we went out the Patriot Front, which is a bunch of Nazis. He promoted them. That's what I'm not saying. Okay, we were all emotional yesterday and stuff, what have you. But the point
so
of the matter is,
if you promote O.J. Simpson and you still defend O.J. Simpson, are you a murderer?
Well, no, but you're a vile person if you support O.J. Simpson.
I think you're probably but you can say you're vile, but you're not a murderer. And you're calling Charlie Kirk a Nazi. Now, you might have not liked his ideologies that you think might collide with, a Nazi. Okay, you're entitled to your opinion, but just because you support bad people doesn't mean you're a murderer if you support O.J. Simpson, and it certainly doesn't mean you're a Nazi. I disagree with you.
Brian, the echo chamber has been going on. Let's remember with Sarah Palin with the crosshairs on her website. Okay. Remember when Obama, they had at St. Patrick's Day parades in these little conservative towns with Obama hanging from a noose. The political violence.
Charlie Kirk,
first of all,
he didn't commit violence. He didn't commit oppression. He didn't physically assault people. So it's inaccurate.
KC,
it's the echo chamber, guys. It's the echo chamber. Every influencer, they all preach the same thing. If they're saying the word Hillary in the morning at 6 a.m., they're saying Hillary at 8 a.m.
KC, not every influencer on the right says those things. So you're wrong about that. That's a huge, I think your problem is you make large generalizations. I'm going to repeat myself once again. You called into the show before Charlie Kirk's body turned cold. Okay. You called into the show an hour or so after he was murdered. Now, you might not like Charlie Kirk any more than I don't like Charlie Kirk, but he is not a Nazi. He was not a Nazi. Nazis are people that murder other people because of a difference of opinion, religion, or ideology.
So what's Patriot Front then? They are he was a.
You're not getting. I'm not getting through, Casey. I'm not getting through to you, and I don't care how many people in the chat agree with you. I don't.
He supported them, but he was not aligned with them.
Okay. I don't like.
He was aligned with them. He was aligned with this white Christian nationalism. Boys, wake up.
Okay, well that's
okay.
He's part of the problem,
sir. First of all, don't tell me to wake up. Okay, I wake up every day, and I know where my surroundings are. KC, are you Jewish by chance?
I am actually, yes.
You are. Okay, well then that's disgraceful because Adolf Hitler and the Nazis literally executed and murdered 7 million people. Okay, I don't like Charlie Kirk. I don't like what he stood for. Charlie Kirk never murdered anybody. And for you to call into the show 30 to 45 minutes after he died and tell me to wake up and you call him a Nazi makes you a fool.
He's a white supremacist.
Ben Shapiro is an idiot. So what? Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro. Why don't you focus? Ben Shapiro is an idiot. Okay, we're not talking about Ben Shapiro. I'm not here to defend Ben Shapiro, but Ben Shapiro's also not a Nazi. Okay, you're a Nazi if you literally kill or murder people because of their ideology or because of their religion. Charlie Kirk was a bad guy, but you called up 30 minutes after the show. You didn't say, gosh, I feel, no. Wake up, sir. Wake up and listen. Sir, wake up and listen. Wake up. Sir, wake up. Listen, stop talking. You didn't call into the show, and the first thing you didn't say was, man, I feel so horrible for his family, for his kids. I feel horrible for his wife. His kids are going to grow up without a father. I feel sorry for all the people that were there that day that were traumatized. The first thing you did was call him a name. And I think you're the one. No, you're the one that you're the one that needs to wake up. You're the one that needs to wake up and get off my show. You're the one that needs to wake up, KC. Wake up.
He's spreading more bad information than most of the influencers.
Yeah, listen, I'm sorry.
People like that just don't have any common sense. He just seems to me like he can't put 2 and 2 together.
Let's go to Dave. Dave is calling from California. What's up, Dave?
What's up, Brian?
Hey,
how you doing?
What's going on?
Brian?
I got more money for you. I'll be donating more.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
So, man, I'm going to make it short and sweet. You know what I'm saying? I understand that he was at the wrong place at the wrong time, and they knew that he was there. But I bet you any money, if he would have had a cancellation, he would have been safe. He would have been safe from that, from anything. You know what I'm saying? If he would have had a cancellation.
Did you know there was
or whatever.
A push on the campus to revoke his permit? Did you know that several students requested that he not come there and speak? Are you aware of that?
Yep. Yeah, I'm very well aware. I watch the news every day, so I'm with you, man. But I'm just telling you right now. I want to emphasize this, and I want to get this out to you guys. You guys are in the public eye, all right? And you guys are on the YouTube channel. So I want you guys to be very careful that you need to go into the Coliseum and go to a metal detector, because I will not go to a rally in an open space when there's nobody out there search and seizure and making sure that there's no metal on them or anything like that goes in there for any event, just like the issue in Las Vegas about the country event that they had, and this one guy shot everybody. You know what I'm saying? So I will never go to an outdoor unless there's metal detectors or any place. You know what I'm saying? So I just want you guys to be very careful that when you go out there, go into a Coliseum, which is much safer because at least they have metal detectors, because they didn't have jack shit there.
So you think Charlie Kirk knew the risks?
They didn't do a good job.
He knew the risks, right? He knew he was in public. He knew there wasn't much security. There was no checkpoint that I know of. So he was aware of the risks, correct?
There's no question. And, we're almost at the end of the show here. Everybody is entitled to their opinions. Maybe I just think differently than some other people. When somebody is murdered in cold blood and they've never committed a crime in their life, they might be a bad person. They might say horrible things. They could even incite violence. But the first thing I think about is their family. The first thing I don't think about is calling somebody a name or a Nazi. Okay. This isn't somebody calling into the show, says something stupid and I call him a name. This is someone who was just murdered. I'm not saying you have to have horrible sleep over this or you have to go to Charlie Kirk's funeral. But what I am saying is, stop throwing out the word Nazi. Okay. You want to call him racist, misogynist. Okay, fine. He was not a good guy. But no, I'm not going to use that term. I disagree with it. Leonard, I really do appreciate you being here.
And don't condone political violence.
Of course, we can never condone political violence. It'd be one thing if you say Charlie Kirk was a really bad guy, even if you call him a Nazi, which I don't agree with, and then say, but he didn't deserve this. This is bad for the country. It's a bad, but the guy didn't say that. And that's another where my issue is. Leonard, I do appreciate you being here on what is a very emotional day, but I appreciate all the calls. For those of you that were waiting on hold, please call back again tomorrow. Nicole Mitchell is going to be joining us in studio tomorrow. So, that's going to be interesting. Trying to get Parker on the show tomorrow. He was actually there at the shooting, and some other special guests lined up tomorrow as well. Thanks for joining us, everybody. I appreciate all of you. Please be safe out there, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Hey, everybody. Are you struggling to find a pizza place